All right, everybody, back with another one. Today we have another special episode. Our guest Anthony Volpe is joining us yet again. Today we're going to discuss some really interesting topics. We're going to discuss some stuff about robotics and how that is changing the landscape of blue collar jobs specifically, but the workforce in the future. And I think it's coming sooner than we think. A lot of people think that robotics is something that might be way down the line or, AI, how they talk about it right now, but it's really not that heavily integrated into our lives yet, but it's probably a lot closer than we think. So we're going to discuss that today. We're going to discuss this interesting new app, Two Way, that has shocked the internet and caused a little bit of controversy, especially for a particular, I guess, Disney uh, actor, and we're going to discuss the app and just dig a little bit more into, what it's about and what the controversy is. And then we're also going to take a look at the housing market and something with the way that we are building homes now versus the way that this new cutting edge technology is building them and how that's going to impact the future of not only the housing market, but also the building construction industry as a whole. So, without further ado, we're going to bring in our guest and discuss these topics. All right, so the three topics I want to try and fit in today's episode, if we can, is the two-way app. That's the one about there's a lot of controversy about it right now. Everybody's freaking out about the whole dead relatives thing. The concrete 3D printers, and
Interesting.
then different types of robotic machines that are being created right now for the purposes of replacing blue collar contractors. So out of
Okay.
those three, I'll let you take this one. Which one do you want to start with?
Oh boy. Let's start with the concrete printing, man. That's an interesting one.
All right, cool. Yeah, this will actually be relevant to you also for your industry because sometimes I know that you said you've done, new development where you've, laid plumbing pipe down in the foundation, before the home is built, right?
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
We've
So
done it.
you have experience in this area. So you know what it's like being in a new development project, a house getting built, whatever, where the concrete is being laid. And but you're an intricate part of that working in the plumbing industry because you lay the foundational plumbing work. So what's your take on this whole concrete printed thing? Have you seen it before? Do you know anything about it?
I've never seen it in real life, and I really don't know too much about it. But what I do know is it's first of all, it's a pretty cool concept. The only thing I don't like about it is when you're 3D printing, they could do a section at a time. They do a section at a time. They do a section at a time. They do a section at a time. When you pour concrete, you want to pour it all at the same time so it all cures at the same time. It makes it stronger. You know what I mean? But as far as building things
That's a
really
great
fast
point.
you know what I but that's how I was always taught. We were always taught, we go in, we run all the plumbing, we put everything underneath, all on the ground, all that, and then the guys come in, they put the forms up, and they pour foundations, and they try and pour foundations in one pour. Because if you pour them in two pours or three pours, it tends to make the concrete a little bit weaker. You know what I mean? It doesn't cure as strong.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's what I was going to ask you right out of the gates is, and I know you're not a mason, so you don't have 100% experience and knowledge in this concrete business, but you have enough. You know, the way the printer works that I've seen is it actually prints layers of like these strips, almost like when you
Yep.
squeeze toothpaste out of a, tube of toothpaste, how it comes out like a very thin, little cylinder. That's
Exactly.
how it
Exactly.
looks when it prints it in these layers, right? But what I understand from concrete too is same thing. You want to get it all in one pour because the concrete won't adhere to each other as well as if it's all one pour, right?
That's
So, what's
100%
your
right.
take on them layering the concrete? And do you think that ends up holding up structurally long term, or is this a experiment that is they're going to eventually find out this is a failed method of doing this? What's your take on that?
Honestly, I think it'll probably they'll probably get a good amount of years out of what they have, maybe 15, 25, but they're not getting, 50, 60, 70. I think it's good as far as building structures fast and getting structures up quick, but that's not necessarily always the best thing in the world either. You know what I mean? You wanna do things the right way. So, do I think temporarily it's gonna be a great concept? Hell yeah, I think it's a really good concept as far as getting buildings up fast and throwing things together fast and getting projects done quicker. And, I'm not really sure the cure time on, a 3D printed concrete. I'm not, I really don't know too much about it, but, it's not anything that's touched my field of work yet. We've never seen anything. You still have the trucks coming in pouring concrete, but eventually down the road, yeah, I think there's definitely gonna be problems with it. I think in the future, maybe 50, 60 years from now, maybe even less than that, you know? This is a great topic for my old man because he's actually a mason and he knows a lot about concrete and stonework. It's funny.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, even if you are a Mason, this is a new concept. So even the
Brand
Masons that
new.
have been doing this their whole life, they're not going to really know how to answer these questions because we're still in the trial and error phase. We're still testing
Definitely.
it out to see. But I tend to agree with you. I don't think this is going to hold up as well. I think it's kind of like the way that we've done things, with everything in America being manufactured, to be lighter and faster and produced quicker, but it always doesn't last as long, right? Like, you have toys that are at, garage sales today from the 1930s that are made
Oh
out of
yeah.
solid metal and they still hold up. And, it's almost 100 years later and people are still, their kids play with the toy. It's a family heirloom. They pass it down. And then you see the toys today, they're made to break. It's actually like an industry concept that you make stuff today to break on purpose
Oh
so
yeah.
that people have to keep buying it over and over again and your industry keeps making money. Same thing with this, but this is a house, right? And as you know from, working in your field, one of the worst things that you could have with a home, one of the worst defects is if the foundation is cracked.
Oh God, yeah. It costs
Yeah, because it's
hundreds of thousands of dollars to repair if it happens, you know?
Yeah, depending on what it is, but like also too, it's the structural integrity of the entire house. So if the foundation cracks, there's a chance it could lead to other problems down the road. And you don't know how much you're dumping into your home to keep fixing this, chasing this, trying to get it back to, original, standard and condition. I agree with you. I don't think it's going to last long term. You might get 10 years, 15 years, maybe 20 years out of it, but it's not going to be like, look at some of the homes throughout the country that are around from like colonial times. The
Oh yeah.
foundations are made with stone, and they, eventually learned to put concrete in between the stone because concrete really all it is ground up rock and water, right? So it's a
Yep.
very old way of doing things.
It's
We
it,
still use it
sand,
because it's so
water,
good.
concrete, that's all it is.
Yeah, it's a paste of rocks basically. But you have this like older homes from way back hundreds of years ago still standing with the stone foundation. And then we went to brick and they don't last as long, but they still last pretty damn long. Then we eventually went to concrete. They really don't last as long as the other two. Now we're doing this. It's almost like they're building homes to break so that you either have to keep buying a new home every so often, same concept as manufacturing products in this world today, or
Like
you
that
just
plan
have
what
to
do they call
keep
that? Planned
paying
obsolescence,
to
right?
fix it. Yeah, 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 good point. Yeah,
It hits
yeah,
my industry too. It's crazy. Like I'm in the plumbing industry and like I am taking out water heaters that have been in service for 120 years and they're still running strong. It's unbelievable. People just want to take them out because they're not
amazing.
energy efficient anymore. And then we're putting in water heaters that get maybe
Right.
10 years out of them. I can't even imagine being in a situation where that's a big expense for most people is just for an example, changing out a water heater costs a couple $1,000s to change out a water heater. Now people have to plan for that every 8 to 10 years. Imagine having to plan for $100,000 house every 8 to 10 years. You know what I mean? It's like I can't even
Yeah.
imagine thinking about that. You know what I mean? It's just I don't know. Like you were saying before, the foundation is the practically the heart of the whole house. You have no foundation, you have no house. In order for a house to last 200 plus years, like I live in a home that was built in 1843, you need to have a solid foundation,
Yep.
strong.
Yeah, it's so true. And that's the key thing, right? Like that's the old adage is, it starts with the foundation. The foundation is the building block to everything, right? And it's funny because I've mentioned this in the past, I think with you as well, but definitely on my own podcast episodes are it's like we're heading into a time where you ever see that movie Idiocracy, where the people they get dumber, so they end up making things. They still like build stuff and do things, but everything is way worse than it used to be. And it's funny because they have more technology, more advancements because of life evolving, but they're actually dumber and they can't do the things that the people in the past did with way less. So it's funny, like we think we're getting smarter because we've got these robots and these computers and AI and all these things, but in a way, it's making us much dumber than the people who lived hundreds of years ago
Oh yeah.
who literally had nothing, no technology, you
Oh
know?
yeah.
And
Oh
it's
yeah.
amazing how they were able to build things that still last today, hundreds of years later. But we're building stuff now that is probably going to be, you know, breaking down in 10, 15, 20 years.
And it's sad because it's like, how do you preserve history then? And look at some of these castles and stuff like, that have been around for hundreds and hundreds. Look at the Colosseum in Rome. You know what I mean? It's been around for thousands of years.
Thousands of years old.
And it's
Thousands,
funny
yeah.
because me and my secretary at work were talking about this the other day. She was like, people today think they're so smart and advanced and everything like that. But think about people in the Egyptian days that built the pyramids, that built all these structures that have lasted all these thousands of years. And she's like, that was a very sophisticated society. Because how? How did they do that to last that long? Did they have technologies that we don't know about? Or were they just a smarter people, which they totally were, 100%.
Yeah. You even have that today with some Asian cultures in on the continent Asia, especially like Japan and stuff like that, where they build things with wood without any nails or glue or anything. They use wood to interlock to each other. So the way they cut the wood, they actually interlock it in a way where
Yep.
it's now force resistant. So it's structurally intact and there's no nails, there's no glue, there's no screws, there's no nothing. It's all made of wood, 100% wood.
Yeah, they have what's his name? I think he was like a famous painter, Da Vinci. They call the Da Vinci Bridge. That's exactly how it is. It's a bridge that you build like this, and it interlocks. All the wood interlocks, and then it sits on itself. The weight of itself holds it up, and then you could literally walk over this bridge. No nails, no glue, no
Yeah,
screws, no anything. It's just slits cut out
yeah,
and wood, and they're all interlocked, and they hold each other up. It's incredible. That's all I wanted to just wanted to
yeah.
compare it to that.
Well, many times too, they would even build archways where they would take stone and layer it in an archway, and then all the stones would curve into each other, and they lay the
Yep.
last stone in the middle, and that's the locking stone. And now the archway all rests on itself. So every time it's pressured down, it only gets stronger, you know?
Exactly.
It has no cement, no nothing. It's just stones.
It's incredible. I mean, and not to keep going back to, but like, look at the pyramids still. There's a lot of people out there that say aliens, this, that, but let's just say, okay, that it was built by people. There's no cement. There's nothing holding those stones together. Nothing.
Right?
They're just stacked,
Exactly.
stacked on top of each other,
Yeah.
put in positions and stacked on top of each other in such a way that they don't, if they, I think somebody was saying if they were a half inch off, that whole structure would have just collapsed.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing too, is it's not like it's a pyramid where it's all stones sitting on top of each other and it's in the formation of a pyramid. It is that, but it's also more than that. Inside of it are all these tunnels and
Yep.
pathways. So you actually have open space inside of it, which would make it even harder to do because structurally over time, as things settle and gravity kicks in, it's going to try and find the areas where there's openness and close it. That's just naturally what
100%.
happens. But for some reason, you could still walk through these tunnels. You go on tours in Egypt and stuff, and you could actually walk through some of these tunnels that they allow you to. Right now, it's been thousands of years.
Yeah.
So the stones have no concrete, no nothing. They still stand and they don't collapse on the tunnels that are in them.
And they don't erode and they don't I mean, yeah, you get a little bit of deterioration, but I mean, look at over the thousands of years what's happened. I can't imagine with 3D printed cement, there's no way it's lasting thousands of years. I'll tell you that right now.
Now, it seems like this is just a play to amp up production, speed things up, where they cut down the build time so that new construction projects don't take as long as they do. Because still today, like we take a very long time to build things when it shouldn't
Yes, we
take
do.
this long. And a lot of it is not because of our technological, advancements not being as good. It's because of typically delays that are controllable, like government permitting delays, inspection approvals, things like that. There's so many steps in a
Ultra.
process like that, especially on a new construction. A lot of people don't know this. Every time you do something, you put in plumbing, you do the concrete, you do the HVAC, whatever, you have to have inspections all along the way, typically, depending on where you are in the country. And a lot of times an inspector comes out
That's
after
right.
each time and they check all the work that everybody did to confirm that it's been done right before you can get to the next step. All these things delay a project. So people always wonder, like, why does it take so damn long to, build something? It's because of a lot of government red tape, a lot of the bureaucracy. It's not because of our technological advancements.
Oh,
Now,
it's 100% true.
mirror this with, yeah, now mirror this with the Amish, right? They'll have 100 guys get together and build a barn in one day.
Yep.
And I'm not talking a
One
little
day.
barn. I'm talking like a huge barn that can hold a 50 cattle or something. How do you do that in one day? And then also sometimes they'll move a barn, like they'll
Yeah.
lift it out of the ground, move it to a new foundation in like a day or two. How do you do that with a bunch of guys that have no mechanized tools? But our people can't get it done quicker. So I feel like a lot of times things like this, the concrete printer, 3D printer, is an answer not to our technological advancements in terms of like how we do concrete. It's more, how do we speed up the process of this crap so that we could get done with the project faster and not have all these delays with like unions and people taking breaks and people coming in late and all these things.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like almost like a solution for people causing problems versus the technology that we have at the time.
It's well, just to touch on the whole inspection thing. First of all, like 100,000%, like on a project, just doing every part of the plumbing. Like once we do it underground, it has to be inspected. And then when they pour the concrete and we start doing the rough around the building, it's got to be inspected. Then they got to come back and they got to do a final inspection. It's like 100,000 inspections, which is ridiculous. So there's a lot of politics involved in that because somebody's pocket is obviously getting filled. But I also think it's like a race with this whole 3D printed thing because if you look in China and like other countries, they're putting up skyscrapers in like 2 to 3 week periods of time. You know what I mean? I think China built the quickest building ever. It was like a 19-story building in Beijing or something like that, and they literally started it from scratch to finish in 2.5 3 weeks. Not sure what the
Yeah, because
process was, but I'm sure 3D printing was a part of it.
well, I'm not totally sure either, but I think I looked into this at one point, and what they did was they built all the parts separately, and they came and assembled them like they're building a Lego building. So they
So
already had everything pre-built, and they brought it to the building site and just assembled it.
very interesting, man. It's the workforce and the way things are being built in the future is going to be totally different. That's for absolute sure. But the 3D printing, I don't know, something about it that I don't think is it's going to hold up very long.
So do you think it puts concrete workers, masons out of business?
I think it's gonna change the game a lot. Yeah, sure. I think it definitely puts people out of business because, bottom line is the bottom dollar, right? So when you're doing building projects and stuff like that, are you gonna want to pay these guys like to physically pour concrete and spread it and make sure it's done correctly? Because that there's a lot of labor involved in that, there's a lot of cost involved in that. And when guys are building, they want to save as much money as they can. So I think yeah, probably will put a lot of guys out of business. It probably will.
And also too, these robots, they sit on site and they print in like an automatically programmed formation, the
Yep.
foundation, but they can keep printing. They can keep printing. So like 5 hours, 10 hours, 20 hours. They don't stop the machine. They
Nope.
don't, maybe they make it take a break to cool down or put oil or something, but they keep running this thing. So when these guys are clocking out at 3 o'clock, because they're like, no, I'm done. I'm in the union. We work 8 hours and we're done. You're almost incentivizing Yeah, you're almost
I did my Union
incentivizing
8 with my 3
robots to
breaks.
replace you because you're not being lazy, but you're not outworking the competition. And the
Oh, yeah.
competition is not always other people. In this place, it's robots. You got to outwork the robots. And that doesn't mean just work, nonstop 24/7, but if you're offering way less than a robot's offering, the robot's going to take your job. If you're offering about the same, but the quality's better, there's a chance you keep your job. So I think that it's probably going to segment the market. Probably going to break it up into two things. Mass production homes. You go with 3D printers. If you're the type of company that's looking to put up a whole neighborhood in an instant and, get it done quickly so that we could sell out the neighborhood, move these people in because we have a housing shortage and we need to fill that demand. But then the other side of the market's going to be quality. do you want your home built well by real people, or do you want your home, built by this robot? And I'll give you an example, and then you give me your take. This happened for the last 20 years. We had robots integrated into the phone systems, right? You'd call a company, you would get a person. Then you would get a robot that would set you up to talk to a person. Then eventually you just get robots. And then eventually you get these but like you would get like almost like nobody. Like you would get like you can't do it on the phone, you do it online, or you get some chat
Yep.
prompt thing that you can chat on the computer, things like that. And it frustrated people so much to the point where some companies are now saying we have real people. We don't, and you call in, there's no more robots. We went back to real people. So and so it's like a selling point for them where they're basically saying we're a quality company. We have real people. Or if they're
True.
in a specific country like America, they're like, we have real Americans on the phone. This is not outsourced to another country. And that's a big selling point for a lot of customers because they're like, oh, great, I can just get the call done quickly and efficiently because they're going to get me in touch with the right department immediately. There's not going to be all this back and forth. I'm not going to get frustrated and just, say, forget this. I'm going to another company. So it's almost like they're going back in that regard. Do you think that when these companies start building these houses with, the concrete robotics and things start failing quicker and they start having problems and stuff, do you think that people start marketing their services as we build our homes with real masons? We build our homes with real. Do you think there's an element of the market where they say
Sure.
we're the quality company, we're not the mass produced company?
100,000% yes. I mean, you'd be stupid if I was a Mason and I did good work and I believed in my work and that was my career. That would be me. 100% if I was a business owner, I'd be like, listen, you want to go with the 3D printed house that you're maybe going to get 10, maybe 15 years out of? Do you want to hire my company who's going to build you a house that'll last a lifetime? You know what I mean? That could be the slogan. We'll build you a house that'll last a lifetime. You can't you can't guarantee that with 3D printed stuff. So I think it'll be great
Hmm.
for a lot of companies, marketing wise. You know what I mean, and bringing back that old homemade feel of an actual person building your house instead of a machine.
Yeah. So now the other thing is, does this also, because I don't see it eliminating masons. You're always going to need masons. You've actually had masons since the beginning of time, essentially.
Oh,
Not
absolutely.
literally, but essentially. And they've never gone away. Ever since we've discovered concrete, we've had people who work with it since the beginning of time, just like carpenters. We've had them forever. Those type of jobs will probably never go away because there's always going to be demand for people who work with those things for real, like people who really do work with their hands. We've seen a little bit of this resurgence with blacksmithing, where we went to machines making, knives and stuff like that. Easy, no problem. They laser cut them. They come out beautiful, super sharp. Now there's a little subculture of people who have companies where they hand forge knives and they
Yep.
promote it to people as these are hand forged knives. They're real. They're made by a real person. We do all the metal work ourselves and they're the best knives. And there are some companies that have done really well over the last few years, being in that niche, right? And so I think there's probably going to be a demand when these homes are built for masons to repair the work on them because I see that the machines build the homes, they lay the concrete and everything, but I haven't seen that they repair anything yet. They probably just have a robotic machine that knows how to build the house right now. But how do you
Yep.
repair the house if the printer is over the thing and it's printing, but now the house is on top of it? How does it repair it, right? So it probably can. It probably can only build the home, and then you're still going to need masons to repair the
Oh,
foundation.
definitely. That I was gonna say that's literally you took the words right out of my mouth. I was gonna say, the 3D printer could print these houses in really quick and make them really, go up, put neighborhoods up in no time. But who's gonna repair all the work that needs to get done? You know what I mean? When there's a crack in the foundation or when something doesn't settle right away, when there's a blemish or something like that, is a robot gonna come in and take care of it? No, a mason's going to. A
Yeah,
mason's going to. So maybe it opens up a new service industry for mason guys. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. Like
yeah,
we'll repair your 3D printed home. Call us. We're stuff. It could be. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how it turns out. I'll tell you that.
yeah. And I also think too, you know, they're 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 doing this obviously because there's it's not like that we have bad masons and they're not doing a good job, so we need to replace them. And also, people don't invest money into things this big. That this venture costs hundreds of millions of dollars to set up. Nobody's putting that amount of money in if they're just like, well, we want to have a robot do this because, we think it would be, great if we had a robot company to do this. Because you have to go out and build the demand for it. It seems like it's filling a demand of, hey, we can put these printers on. We could print around the clock, 24 hours until the job is done. You know, have a foreman on site to monitor the machine to make sure it's printing and everything's working right. And then we move on to the next house. And we could be done with an entire neighborhood in the amount of time it takes your average mason to lay 3 home foundations. So it's like they're probably doing this to fill a demand of how do we get homes up quicker? Because there's a supply shortage in this country for the amount of homes that are available for sale on the market versus amount of people that are looking for homes. So that's one part of it. The other part is, and that's just my theory as to part of the reason why they're doing this.
Sure.
My other question is, do you think this impacts home prices? Because if your home, that's the whole thing about economics is it's literally just supply and demand. That's what economics always boils down to. How many of an item do you have and how many people want that item? That's
Sure.
literally all economics is. It's point blank, right? So home prices have gone up over the last few years and they've kind of, tapered off a little bit, but they're still pretty strong because there's still so few people selling their home versus how many people want to buy a home. But if you
Oh
can
yeah.
now print homes faster, get more homes built quicker, on the market faster, fill that buyer demand, does that decrease home price values over the course of the next 20, 30 years as these things start getting cranked out more and more and more homes are getting built with?
What happens to the regular homeowner that has a regular house? You know what I mean? I'm not really big in economics or anything like that, but how does that affect them? How
The
does
only
it
way it
affect them?
would is, well, the only way it would is if a person wants to buy a home and there are very few homes available on the market and they could have this guy's house, but he wants a 3 bed, 2 bath and his area goes for, 400,000 and he wants 450. And the
Sure.
house next door was just 3D printed. It's the same size, same everything, but they got it up really quick. So they're like, you know what? We invested this much into it. We could sell it for 400. Now this guy has to lower his price to 400 in order to match that, in order to get his home sold. Otherwise, he's going to always be the high guy on the market. He's going to be
Yep.
overvalued, right? That's how it affects the market for even regular houses that aren't 3D printed. So do you see this being something that negatively impacts the value of home prices over the next 20, 30 years?
It could. Yeah, I would say so. There's more houses
Yeah, it's possible.
and I mean, yeah, I would think so. And again, I'm not, I don't know the economy and economics all like that, but I could see it definitely negatively affecting it, you know?
Yeah, it's totally
But it's
possible.
again, I don't think we'll know until more of these things are printed and more of these houses are printed and we see what happens, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think over time, a lot of these questions are going to be answered for us, but it's interesting to speculate because anytime a new technology comes out, everybody either panics or gets excited. And
Sure.
it's usually the people who panic are panicked because they're afraid that's going to negatively impact them. The people who get excited are looking at it as either a new opportunity for them or a
Yep.
new investment, some way that they could get on the train and make money on that deal. But like you look at over time and there are different things throughout history that have replaced the standard for that time and never came back. Like the printing press that replaced people who used to hand make books. People used to hand make books
Sure.
back in the day.
Yes,
They
it
used to
did. Yes,
sew
they
them
did.
in the binding into the book and then put the cover on and everything. So they used to hand make books. Printing press came. You rarely see those people anymore. Every once in a while you have people that are in that niche part of the industry where again, it's a quality thing. They hand make books and then they sell their services as it's custom handmade. That's a very small market of people that are willing to pay that much money for a handmade book. The printing
That's it.
press completely decimated the handmade book market, right? But you also have something more recent, like newspapers. Articles on the internet completely made
Oh,
newspapers almost obsolete, right? You really don't see
gone,
newspapers anymore. You mostly just
gone.
see, local flyers or things like that, but people don't read the news as a newspaper the way they used to anymore. And this is
No.
just in the last 20 years. I remember 15 years ago sitting out on my porch reading a newspaper.
Yep.
Like it's that close. It's that far away. It's only 15 years, you know? And
Yeah.
that's how fast that
Paperboards.
entire industry became obsolete, right?
That was a
So
lot of our
do
first
do
jobs as kids,
go in the newspaper and get them. Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
So
and
there is a
even
chance
delivering
though
them.
that yeah, exactly. Yeah, you put all those people out of business too. And also think about, the long term of this. In the beginning, you're going to have things you need to tweak, adjustments you need to make, but they'll perfect it over time.
Sure, they will.
Do we get to a point where this completely changes the house building industry to where in the long future down the road, 30 years down the road, we never have masons lay a foundation again. Like this is it. We use these robotics and that's it. That's what everybody does.
I don't know if they'll ever fully put masons out of business. You know what I mean? And again, I think there's still going to be that select people that want it done handcrafted the way they want it done. But for the most part, if there's a success rate with this, yeah, I think that will be the way of the future. You know, why pay a company X amount of dollars and take X amount of time to build a neighborhood when we could have a 3D printer do it in probably a quarter of the time? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And get it up
Do you
real
see
quick.
this affecting do you see this affecting the trades that work with that industry in any way? Like, for example, if you have to go in and do plumbing work, you now have to like go to additional schooling and learn how to work with this new way they layer concrete and stuff. Like, do you see that affecting the other trades?
I don't see it affecting it. I just see like in our line of work, we kind of just go with the times. You know what I mean? And we just kind of figure out how to work with what we have. And there'll probably be some code changes and stuff like that because of the way the concrete is and what you if you could drill through it, if you could hang on it, if you could certain things that you can and cannot do with it, and it may require certain ways of doing things, but I don't think it's gonna affect us at all. No, we'll still go in, we'll still do our
Mm,
plumbing. HVAC guys will still go in, still do their HVAC. And if there's certain things that they need to know about this particular concrete, it'll just get added into their code changes every year or every other year, whatever it is. So no, I don't think it's gonna
yeah,
negatively affect the other trades at all.
that's good. If anything, it'll just be more learning for you. You'll have to do like an additional,
No,
hour of
that's it.
continuing education to learn about that.
Which it is what we do continue in education every other year now, and um things
Hmm.
are constantly changing in our trade. Like we went from having regular hydronic heating boiler systems that just a basic hot water system to now they're all computerized and technologicalized and you got to have your phone to program it. And it's like, it's just we keep up with times.
Yeah. Yeah, look at even just the thermostats, how they've changed over the last 10 years. You have the Nest, you have all these other,
Yep.
brands that you could program them from an app on your phone and, it's crazy.
You could turn the heat on in your house, like, if you're on your way home from a trip. Like, "Oh, I wanna turn the heat on now from my phone."
Yeah,
Click, and then it turns your heat on. It's
yeah.
unbelievable.
Yeah, it's true. Well, technology, it's never going to stop. Like we're always going to
No.
see it constantly evolving. But it's interesting to see, like, we've had this conversation in the past where we say the blue collar jobs, they're probably not going to be as affected by AI and robotics and things like that for the future. But now that you look and see, like, there are a lot of companies that are working on robotics that may very well replace some blue collar jobs.
Sure, sure. There may be certain jobs that they can replace. Like I could see maybe like the robotics coming into the plumbing industry as far as like the drain cleaning side of it. And like maybe they'll come up with some kind of little robot that you could put down the drain and it could go and it could whatever it does. You know what I mean? Goes in with little cutters and cuts all the stuff that's in the drain that's plugging it up. I can maybe see it going something along those lines, but as far as plumbing industry as a whole, I don't think it definitely won't affect my industry. You know what I mean? But as
Yeah.
far as other industries go, yeah, maybe so.
Yeah, I'm thinking of less intricate ones, not ones where you have to go to school for, 4 years or whatever, but something like a landscaper. So we'll jump into this now
Oh yeah.
because I want to I'm going to take a look at something real quick and just give you a snapshot, like bullet points of some of the robotics that have been created now that are currently on the market now that are doing blue collar type jobs. So I'm going to pull that up now. You won't be able to see it on your end because I can't do a screen
That's
share
all
at
right.
this moment, but you've got warehouse fulfillment. So robots that are working in warehouses right now, like Amazon, where they, literally go around the warehouse and do all kinds of things. They, you know, bring packages from one location to another. They sort the products that are going in the package. They pack the package. They box it up. They're able to do a lot
Yep.
of different things. And Amazon's biggest one with this, right? Then you have last mile delivery robots, which are basically these automated trucks that are driverless, where they literally bring the product to where it's going and deliver it. Whether it's they're not actually coming out of the vehicle and bringing you the package at this moment, but we're definitely headed there. Or they're like showing up to a warehouse and then the guys in the warehouse unload it, but the thing that brought it there was all robotics, no driver, no nothing, just so that's delivery robots. Then you have cleaning robots. Obviously, we all know
True.
the Roomba, the famous vacuum that goes around, and cleans your floors. They also have ones that have mopping mechanisms now and
Yep.
all different types of in-house cleaning stuff. Then you have lawn care. This is one of the biggest ones. They have little robots now that, are not so small, but they, go and cut all your grass. But they'll even map your property out to
Yep.
where, and I've seen this, they can tell the difference between a weed and a flower that's growing and literally just kill the weed and leave the flower. It's pretty crazy, pretty wild. But they do this with like satellite mapping of your lawn, of your property ahead of time. So they build
Sure.
it into the robot to know exactly where everything is on the property so that they don't kill your garden if you have a garden and things like that. But we'll get back to that. Automated tractors and farming robots are getting integrated now into the farming industry. I think John Deere is working on some stuff. And then, construction and heavy equipment, which is what we just talked about. So you have a couple different industries there that are blue collar industries, and you have robotics that exist right now in the market that may possibly be replacing these jobs, not jobs that you really have to, like I said, do a lot of schooling for and stuff. What's your take on some of these robots that might very well in the next 10 years put landscapers completely out of business or house cleaners completely out of business?
Well, I was gonna say I saw I don't know, it was maybe about 3 weeks ago. I was driving home from the store. It was a Sunday morning, and I see this little black thing, and it's going across this lady's lawn. I'm like, "What the hell is that?" And Marina looks at me and she's like, "That's a robot. It cuts grass." I'm like, "Oh God." Yeah, man, I
It's
could
begun.
definitely see it being a big problem for people in the landscaping industry because it's gonna people with landscapers and stuff like that. There's at least where we are in Connecticut. They're trying to get people to go all electric, all battery powered. They don't want people using gasoline motored stuff anymore on their properties for as far as like landscaping goes. They're trying to restrict landscapers and stuff. So I can
Now
see the
that's your state,
robotics.
not your township, right?
No, that's the state. That's the state of Connecticut. That's not my town. My town especially not. My town doesn't I live in the boondocks, man. They don't give a you could take a blowtorch and melt all your snow and people don't care up here. You know? But, and as far
Yeah.
as house cleaners and stuff go, definitely. I could see that definitely, negatively affecting them. But then again, I always ask myself, like, what about the fine tuning? You know what I mean? What about the when a landscaper comes in and he makes your yard look so precise, like with the nice edge up around the edges and cutting those hedges just so perfectly straight and nice so that it looks so even throughout your yard and everything like that. Like, yeah, conveniently they could cut your lawn and maybe not kill your garden, but are they gonna make your house look picture perfect? A robot? I don't know.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
know
we don't
I
know,
know an
but
old
it's
landscaper, he's 80 years old, man, and he still cuts with he trims hedges by hand with the friggin' with the clipper, and his work is immaculate. I don't know if a robot can do that.
yeah. Well, that's where I said I think we're headed into a future where you have two realities. One is going to
Yep,
be the reality of fast-paced mass production, and the other is going to be a niche but big reality of people looking for quality again. And we see this with a lot of different things. We saw this with the food industry over the last 20, 25 years. Everything was mass produced. All the big companies, they made every product you could ever imagine. They invented products that nobody even heard of. They just figured out how to create ridiculous things just to get people to buy stuff. Not like we needed it. They just wanted to do it. And then you had a burst of people who wanted to go back to good, wholesome food. You had people getting into the
yep,
organic movement, looking for things that are natural again. You have restaurants that popped up with the gimmick of farm to table. We grow it on our property, we harvest it, we bring it in our kitchen, cook it, and serve it to you all here. It's all local. It's not mass produced. So there's all these different selling points that people have, just in the food industry alone. Now you have the whole Maha movement in the government. It's already reached that level. So you have a lot of people like looking for quality again in many different aspects of their life. I think it's possible we're headed into a future where there's going to be people who look for quality lifestyle and they go with all the quality things, and then people who are perfectly comfortable being in a future where everything is mass produced, even if it's low quality, even if it's complete garbage, and even if it could actually negatively impact their own lives, just to be able to have it right now because there's no patience anymore.
Well, they
What do
want
you
that
think about that
convenience factor.
reality?
They want that convenience factor. I think you hit the nail on the head, man. 100%. I think we are going to totally be split into a society like that because I see it all the time when I go in and out of people's houses and stuff. You could really see the people who live a very convenient lifestyle, whereas everything's, I don't know how to explain it. Like, they just live a very convenient lifestyle. You could just tell that their lifestyle is like, they have the electronic this and the electronic that and the lawnmower that does the lawn mowing for them, and the Roomba
The
that cleans the house
Alexa,
for them.
the
The Alexa, exactly. Alexa, do this. Alexa, do that. And then even with the plumbing industry, they have faucets now that you could just wave your hand in front of and turn it on, so you can't even put your hand on it anymore and just turn the damn thing on. No, you could just walk by it and the water turns on for you. That convenience. Press a button, turn your dishwasher on. Press a button, turn your heat on. And then you have other people who don't live like that. I don't live like that. I still cut, chop, split, stack, and burn wood in my house every day in the wintertime. You know what I mean? It's just I think there's gonna be a great split between people in society like that. And then you're gonna really get to see the lazy ass people, and then you're gonna really get to see the people who, are proud and they work hard for a living and they want what they want the way they want it. You know?
yeah.
It's like you were saying before, you got the people who will buy mass produced furniture, and then you have a very small percentage of people who will buy Amish made furniture because yeah, it's
Mm,
more expensive and everything like that, but it's going to last
mhm.
you 10 generations in your family, you know?
My own father literally bought furniture from the Amish. They custom made it for him and delivered it to his house.
100%. And my boss right now is having a barn built by the Amish on his
Yeah.
property. You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, I know he's paying more money to have the Amish build it, but I'll tell you what, right now, that thing's gonna last probably 300 years. It'll stand.
And that's the funny thing. The Amish aren't even like, your average person that's not, I don't really like technology. They're way in the past and they're still active today. There's still a demand for them today. That
Oh
just
yeah,
goes to prove the whole point of like the quality thing will always be there. But it's sad
it'll
because we
always be
used
there.
to be a nation of quality. When things were made in America, everything was made really well and it was made to last forever. They started getting away from that when we moved things over to China about 40 years ago, and they
Yep.
started mass producing everything to fulfill the Americans, lust for constantly having the latest everything just
Oh yeah.
because we could say we have it or we want it or something. And it's sad because America, everything used to be made really freaking well, man. It's
Oh
so
yeah.
sad to see that the way that things are made today. I mean, you could literally buy something on Amazon, get it, and on the same day it breaks. That's
Oh yeah.
sad.
Oh yeah. And then we live in a throwaway society. People just like, oh, my TV broke. Let me throw it out and go buy another one. People used to
Hmm.
save up their paychecks to buy a TV, and that TV would last. I remember down in my grandmother's basement, she had a TV that was 165 or 70 years old, however old the freaking TV was, and it still worked. Now you
Yeah.
buy a TV, it breaks, you throw it in the garbage, you go to the freaking store, you buy another one. It's 75-inch, put it on your wall for $200. We live in a throwaway society,
And we also
but
live in a very heavy consumer society where they do this every year. They come out with a new this, a new that, the new iPhone, the new, whatever piece of technology, and they
yep,
sell you on, you got to have this one. It's the best one ever, even though it's only slightly better than the previous year. And
yeah,
so many people are like, they have a phone for 2 years and they're like, this is disgusting. I'm still using this old phone. It's like, it's 2 years old, but they
yeah.
got to
What's
have the
wrong with
newest one.
no?
It's an unhealthy obsession, with
It
always
is.
having everything be perfectly new.
It is. It is. And I'm the type of guy that I'd rather have like I have an old tractor, just that I cut my lawn with because I know it was built different when it was built. You know what I mean? Just it's I don't know.
Yep,
It just goes back to the fact that, you got the quality people and then you got the people who want to live comfort style. Me, I have a phone that I don't know, 4 years old, 5 years old. I don't care. As long as I could talk to my family, my friends, and I could, get on and research stuff and do stuff. I don't give a shit. I don't have to have the latest and greatest. That's me personally though. But this the society we live in. Everyone has to have the latest and greatest. Keeping up with the Joneses, you got to have the
yep.
$500 shoes and the $10,000 friggin' cell phone. It's like that's insane.
Yeah. Yeah, I also do see like there are movements of people who are doing away with all of the worldly things and they're going back to quality. You see this with a lot of young people, especially our generation, the millennials. They're very big into the homesteading thing of going back to, growing things on your own
Oh yeah.
property, being self-sufficient, going off the grid, all these things. Even like, using those old hand push mowers. It's interesting to see that like there is a rebellion to having too much, too fast, all the time, with no room for having to have patience or anything. People will literally rebel against that, which is crazy because it's like, well, you have everything at your fingertips. You're the greatest country in the history of the world. You could have everything. Look at Amazon; they'll deliver to you same day sometimes, and it's like people are actually rejecting that over quality.
I tell you, I'd be one of those people, Rob. It's just me personally. I'd rather have quality. I'd rather have
Yeah, me
quality.
too.
I would rather have quality than convenience. You know what I mean? If I got to work a little harder and I got to have something quality, I'll take it. Like I said, I'm still splitting,
Yeah,
cutting, and stacking and burning wood at my house, man. It's just,
yeah,
it
100%.
is what it is. It is what it is.
But there's a
That's
different
how I was
energy
one of them.
too when you have something. Yeah, there's a different energy too when you have something that's quality, like your home is old, but it's well built, and sitting by like the fire with the wood, like all that stuff that you have to do, that you have to put a little more work in, but there's a quality to it. There's something nice about it where there's an energy that you just feel so much better than being around all this fake stuff, all the
Oh yeah.
plastics, all the, chemicals, and your body can actually feel the difference of that stuff.
And your mind feels the difference of that stuff too. You sit there and
Yeah, true.
you get a sense of appreciation when you go out in the middle of the woods and at least this is me, man. I know not everybody thinks this way, and you build yourself a little friggin' shelter and you start a little fire and you sit there and you relax and you make a cup of tea or something like that. It's like, man, I had to work for this and it feels good, and it's like this is
Hmm.
that's me. That's me, and that's a large majority of people are like that too. But that's gonna our
Yep,
culture's definitely dividing into that, like you were saying before. That you got the half the people that are going the convenient route, and half the people that are kind of rebelling against it and going back and saying we're gonna do things like our ancestors did it. You know what I mean? That's how it
yep.
should be. That's how it should be.
Adding on to the robotics thing, because there's another layer of this. What's your take on this? Is a robotics company now, they built a robot. I forgot the name, but maybe if the audience knows, put it in the comments. They built a robot that it goes into your home, cleans, dishes, I think could cook, laundry, all this type of different stuff, right? Typical housekeeping stuff. But it's not acting on its own accord. There's a person who remotely is making the robot do everything. So they have a camera in the eyes of the robot and they're looking at everything in your house and they're
No,
manually operating the robot to be able to do all these chores in your home so that you don't have to do them. So you have a
hell no.
stranger technically in your home all day or however many hours the robot's there doing all this stuff. And they could be anywhere. They could be in another country, another state, whatever, remotely operating this robot in your home. What's your take?
That's the most sketchiest thing I have ever heard in my entire life. I would no way. My take is shoot it down now. I think that's a terrible idea. I think that is a terrible idea. Don't let a robot into your home with cameras all over it. And you don't know what the man, it's already sketchy enough that they have TVs with cameras on them that people can watch you from and stuff like that. It's like you want your home to be your home, your privacy. You don't want some robot coming in, cameraed up, some random dude behind the screen 100 miles away cleaning your house. Not to mention it takes away from the what if you have kids? Give them chores. You know what I mean? Don't have a robot do all the friggin' housework. Put your kids to work. Teach them some discipline. Go do the dishes. You want this. Go do that. You want that. I think it's a terrible idea. That's yeah, no, I don't like that at all. Not one bit.
Yeah, me too. I think about the vetting process, like who vets the people that are going to be operating the robot because the
Seriously.
buyer, like if you hired a maid, right, a housekeeper or something, you would interview them and then you would, vet them, make sure they checked out, and then if you decided to hire them, you hire them. If you buy the robot, you don't get to vet, as far as I know, the
No.
person who's on the other end in your home. Technically, they're not physically there, but they're there remotely. So who vets that person? Just the company? Because then
Yeah.
if that's the case, they don't care. They're going to do whatever's best for the bottom dollar, like you said. But I feel like that's going to lead to a lot of problems.
Well, then people could hack it. And then, you have all these people hacking these robots that are in your house now. And it's like getting all your private information. And, listen, my house is my sanctuary. Okay. I don't want anything that shouldn't be in here in here. Okay. And I will do my dishes and I will do my own laundry before I ever hire a robot to come in my house and do it for me.
Yeah.
And that's all I got to
Yeah, me
say.
too. I don't
Yeah,
care how long
literally.
it takes.
Neither do I. It does not matter to me.
And it's funny because it's not against robotics, right? Like if you think about it today, we have robots. A refrigerator, it's a robot. A
Sure it
dishwasher,
is.
it's a robot. Laundry machine, washer, dryer, those are robots. They're
Sure.
literally machines that are run on electronics, chips, mechanisms to be able to do the work that you could do by hand. So we already have robots integrated. We've had so for decades now. What we're talking about is the next level where you have a robot that has a mind type thing that can actually maneuver itself. The dishwasher is not going to get up and murder you, but there's a
No.
chance that if a robot's walking around your house and it malfunctions, it could actually do that. So there's a
Exactly.
major difference between the type of robots that we have now and what we're headed into the future.
Well, and then how do you know what the person on the other end of that robot that's controlling that robot, how do you know what their intentions are? Yeah, just because they were maybe
Exactly.
vetted by the company, okay? And then what if all of a sudden one day they lose their marbles and they want to come after you like, "Oh, I'm in this guy's house, I'm cleaning in his house and I'm going to go kill his dog now." You know what I mean? It's like I don't want something having that type of power over me in my own house. No way. No way. I don't
Exactly.
like people walking
So,
by
all
my
right.
house that I'm not comfortable like that. I don't like people walking up the street that I've never seen before, let alone coming into my house. Like, no, get out of here.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's great. I can't even understand how so like we went a little too far with like the Alexa and things like that, where people got comfortable having a robot in their home that now has listening devices and
Nope.
maybe even camera devices where they could see inside your home, and then the people who own that product have access to that information. We already went too far with that. Now you're gonna have an actual electronic machine that can actually walk around your home
Hell
and
no.
touch things and pick things up and touch a knife. And also, if you're a gun owner, maybe they find your gun. Maybe all these
Exactly.
crazy scenarios I know, but it's a lot different than your dishwasher or your TV that's listening to you.
Totally. Totally, totally, totally different. It's like very iRobotish, and I don't like it at all. Don't
Yeah, it
like it at
almost
all.
seems like that movie is inevitable.
No, definitely, and it's funny because I find myself comparing our society to that movie more and more now than ever. I sit there and I'm like, wow, we really like they really nailed it with that one. They really did.
Yeah, it's either foreshadowing where they're anticipating that's going to happen and they make a movie because they anticipate it's going to happen, or they make the movie with the fantasy of, and then we create the reality out of it,
True,
whatever it is. The-
true.
So the last thing I want to get to is that 2A app. I did some research on it. I looked at it. I guess the rundown is this: just like AI, they have avatars where it's whatever you want it to be. Now, avatar for people who don't know is the little character on your phone, even in your texts and things, where you could make it look like you and what this, whatever. This one is different because they're saying you can take actual historical figures or a character from a Disney movie or whatever, a dead relative. You feed the system a small amount of information about that person. So like it could be a 5 minute video, home video of your grandma, and it'll take whatever it can from that. I don't know if they have a quality limit because some of the stuff is older, and they'll take that video of that person and they'll create an AI avatar that looks a hell of a lot like them and use their voice to now have them do anything that you want. You can put prompts in and say, I want to see my grandma, dancing at her wedding with my grandfather. If you had a video of them doing that, it'll do that, but then it'll also add a whole scene. Like now I want to see dinosaurs chasing them out of the wedding. And it's like all of a sudden it'll, at least that's the idea is that you can now build on this. So it'll take what already exists and then make a whole fake reality out of that with a person in your life. Could be alive, could be dead. Doesn't just have to be dead. But that's what got a lot of attention was that people were freaking out online because they were saying, well, now you're gonna like basically try and bring back dead relatives, but only in the computer with a fake version of them. But they look like them, they talk like them, and they can do things in real time that you want them to do. So what's your take on that?
I think I don't like that, man. I think that's gonna, in better terms, it's gonna fuck with people's heads. You know what I mean? Why not? You miss your relatives, you miss your loved ones. I lost my grandmother and I love her very much, but I would not want an avatar of my grandmother sitting there talking to me. You know what I mean? It's something about that I don't like. If I'm missing my grandmother, I'll pick up a book and I'll look through pictures and I'll smile and I'll
Exactly.
laugh and I'll say these were the
Yeah.
good times. You know what I mean? And I miss these times, and maybe I'll go get a video and I'll pop a video in, and I want to hear her voice, and that's one thing. But no, the whole it's a false perception of reality, and I think it's gonna fuck with a lot of people's heads, and I think it's dangerous play.
Well,
I
so
think
this
it's
is what's
evil
so
play
funny
too.
is like, yeah, and this is what's so funny. Glad you bring that up about evil. A lot of times we overlook things. Again, it's because of the knowledge has gone down over time. We've gotten dumber, but we overlook things that are literally hidden in plain sight. So they always call these things avatars. You say, why? Why do they call it an avatar? Where does that come from? You know what an avatar means?
I don't actually.
It is an embodiment of a deity or a false god. So it basically means an entity is possessed by a deity or a false god. Well, what is this literally what is this talking about? It's talking about a fake character or somebody that's real that's a characterization of them is made and they're embodying something that's not true, right? It's literally what that is. Avatar is like if you're possessed by demons, right? It's like the same
Sure.
concept. If you're possessed, you're still you because you look like you, but you're not acting like you because you're possessed by demons. It's the same thing. The
You're
AI
possessed by the
avatar
avatar.
looks like grandma, sounds like grandma, but it's not grandma.
And again, I just think there's something so unweary, and it kind of like makes your stomach curl a little bit, man. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot of great things with technologies and stuff like that, and like being able to use them in certain ways, but like this is not a good use of this technology. Like I think
Yeah.
it's cool that they were, throughout history and stuff like that, they were able to use technology to like make clear pictures of people that we may have never, maybe they've never seen before or anything like that, and or they just have had little things of them and make this is what they really look like. That's cool. Like I've seen pictures like stuff like that throughout history, but that is just sketchy. I don't like it at all. I don't like it at all, and I think it's
Yeah,
a
and
bad
also
deal for
too,
people.
well, you said you think it's evil. Why do you think it's evil? What about it is evil?
What about it is evil is like, when you lose somebody, you go through a grieving process. Okay. You're upset, you're
Hmm.
sad, you don't want to keep reliving that process all the time. You know what I mean? And like I said, again, it's just a false perception of reality. It's not, that's what makes it evil. It's not giving you a real sense of reality. You're not your grandmother's gone. She's not coming back. Okay. Unfortunately, that's just the way it goes in life. And you sitting there talking to an avatar that sounds and looks and acts like your grandmother, it's just giving you a false sense of hope. It's like it's then you're gonna start to believe like, oh, is she really still alive? And it's just gonna fuck with people's heads. I just think it's an evil thing, you know?
You hit the nail on the head, and you really actually I agree with everything you just said. It's a perfect point, is that it robs people of the reality of life and actually dealing with things for real. You don't get that time to grieve. You don't get that time to, go through the process of healing from the loss and accepting it. you could get stuck into like a perpetual cycle of, well, grandma's never really not gone because I could talk to her anytime I want, and we could have conversations about anything I want to have conversations about because I feed her the prompts of what the conversations are going to be, and she says everything back to me in real time, like we're having a conversation right now, except she's not real. So it's like you're literally stealing from them a natural part of life.
Yep. I don't like it. I don't like it.
Yeah,
And
me neither.
for me, it's like, we're all gonna lose our parents one day, this and that, I understand. But I wouldn't want an avatar of my mom. If I'm missing my mom, I'll listen to a voicemail. You know what I mean? Or maybe you save a voicemail or you hear something. Oh, I just want to hear my mom's voice, and you listen to it and it makes you smile or it makes you cry. And it's all part of the process. It's all part of the grieving process. And that's perfectly normal and that's perfectly okay. And I'll go look at a picture or go watch a video of when you were a kid and stuff like that. That's one thing, but no, no, no.
Yeah.
Grandma that died 10 years ago, that all of a sudden comes back, and no, I just don't like it, man. And from what I understand, it was created by some Disney Channel star or something like that, or some kid that was on the Disney. I
No,
don't remember who it is, but
I think he just might be promoting it, or maybe he's an investor, but I don't think he. I
oh,
don't. I
okay,
don't know
okay,
actually.
okay.
I don't think he created it.
Got it. Got it, got it, got it. I read something about some Disney Channel star. He was on some TV show on Disney back in the day, and he's playing a heavy role in this two-way app.
Yeah, yeah. He might just be like a partner in the
Promoter,
company.
like you
But
said.
also, I want to add one. I want to add one point to this, which is a really interesting take, and I want to get your take on it. I'm not sure I heard anybody say this, but this whole like Avatar thing, specifically with the dead relatives, for me, it reminds me heavily of mediums, and where you get a lot of people who, after someone dies, they go to a medium to talk to them to see if they can get some sort of wisdom or clarity on the deceased relative and see if they can connect with them in the afterlife and see if they will, maybe just tell them, hey, are they okay? Did they make it to paradise or whatever, right? And
Scammers.
what I want the audience to know first is, and the Bible says this, every time you go to a medium, never once are they talking to your dead relative. It is always a demon that is possessing them in that moment. And this is in the Bible. It literally says stay away from mediums, right? But what's important is a lot of times people have those experiences where they sit and talk with the medium, and the medium will actually take on the voice of the relative that had passed, and they go, wow, they sounded like them. It was their voice. I know for sure they connected with my dead relative because they spoke to me in their same voice. That is a demon imitating the voice, right? So this
Sure.
reminds me of that, where it's an image and likeness of the person and their voice coupled with them having a conversation with you. To me, that just screams demonic possession. But for
Sure.
some reason, because it's a computer system and it's not people, we don't look at it that way.
Hmm. That's interesting as hell, but that's a good way to look at it because that's pretty much you call a spade a spade. That's exactly what it is. You know what I mean? You broke it
Yeah,
down just then into exactly what it is. You know what I mean? And I think that I would never. First of all, I would never go to a medium. I just think it's total, in my opinion, bullshit. In other people's opinion, like you just said, demonic, and I could definitely understand that. But if your relative is meant to connect with you, they'll connect with you. Okay. Maybe through a dream or maybe through a memory or something like that. Or maybe I don't know if this ever happens to you, but every once in a while, I'll be sitting around and all of a sudden out of nowhere, I'll just hear in my head the way my grandmother used to laugh. And it makes me smile. And I'll be like, okay, maybe in that moment she was just connecting with me. Maybe she came to visit me for a second. I don't need a medium to do that. I don't need an avatar to do that. I have this right here. And that's what you need, you know?
yeah, yeah. And that's the thing. Like, that's what we need to do is hold on to the memories of people,
That's
because
it.
otherwise you're living in a false reality. But I wouldn't even do this with a living person that I knew. Like, I wouldn't take a living person that I knew and put them into AI and make a fake version of them and get them to
No.
say things I wanted them to say. That to me is creepy. That's almost like the equivalent of taking, and this is the only thing I can think of right now that makes this, example, taking the picture of a girl you like. You're in high school and you have a crush on this
Yep.
girl, and you cut her head off in the picture and put her head on the body of like a Playboy magazine, centerfold, just to be able to picture her naked, but with the actual visual. That to me is what this feels like. You're literally taking somebody's likeness and image and stealing it and making them do things you want them to do, say things you want them to say. You're almost like putting words in their mouth and almost like robbing their soul for a moment, which
It's
is
almost
really
like
creepy. Like I don't like that.
it's a total invasion of privacy too. Because, like, what if
Yeah, could
somebody
you
takes your
imagine?
image, takes your picture, takes your voice, and uses it to harass people, or uses it to go after people, or uses it to start false relationships with people? And it's like, it's fucked up, man.
Or even just this, for example, if they took your image, turned it into a video of you saying, I hate this baseball team, I love this baseball team, or I hate my mom, or whatever. Like you come up with all these ridiculous things that you personally would never say, but they got you on camera saying those things. Wouldn't that bother you? Like,
Oh,
who the hell are
100%.
you to visually make me say things that I didn't say? That's not me, you know?
It's a total invasion of your character, of your person, of your life, of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Total invasion. I don't like it at all.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of
Right.
great and fantastic things with, technology, but this is just some stuff that is just this is the evil stuff of it. This is the evil side of it. This is the not so good side of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you don't know what's real and what's not anymore, not to go too far off topic here, but, like, you know, you watch videos online and everything like that, and it's like it could be, let's just throw out there, for instance, like, "Oh, I watched a video on Trump today." And then you look around and it's like, "Okay, that video wasn't even real, it was just an AI video." But it looks so fucking real. And it's like, how? You know? I didn't
Mhm.
say that. I didn't do that. That wasn't me. That was somebody else. You know, I could just see it being a real problem in the future too, as far as like committing crimes and stuff like that go. But that I don't want to, that's a whole different topic, but I'm just saying.
No, but think about that for a moment. It's gonna make the police not be able to rely on video footage anymore.
That's
So
what
all
I'm
these
saying.
cameras they put up, all the cameras they put up in all these cities and all the stores that have them for surveillance, you're not even gonna be able to use them anymore as admissible in court as evidence because you won't be able to tell if it's a fake video or real video. So it almost makes the cameras obsolete in a way.
That's exactly right. And then you're gonna have that, every lawyer is gonna be saying, well, that video is not real. That video is AI. That video is not real. That video is
Yeah.
AI. That's gonna be their
Yeah.
arguing point from now on, as a defense attorney.
And for now, it's probably very clear that, it's probably very clear, certain things that you could look at on the back end technologically where you could see, oh, this was actually created by AI because there's probably certain markers and stuff. But
Definitely.
here's the problem with that, right? They might say, oh, yeah, prove it's AI. Okay, we can prove it's AI because this, right? Now you go to the flip side. They say, well, prove it's not AI. Well, how do you prove a negative, right? If the
Exactly.
video is a real video, but they can't figure out if it's AI or not because it's real. They could just say, well, we can't prove it's not AI. So this must be a really advanced version of AI where we can't prove it, even though it's the real deal. So now it's like we can't prove a negative. So like I said, it almost makes videos as evidence in the future obsolete. Like we won't even be able to use it anymore as evidence.
Definitely. And that's one of the biggest things that they have now is video. You know what I mean? As far as, catching people and for crimes and stuff like that. That's one of the biggest things that they have now. And it's gonna
Yeah,
be a real problem. It's gonna be a problem. AI
yeah.
is gonna be
So
good for a lot of things. I'm not gonna lie and sit here and say it's gonna be terrible for everything because it's not, but it's gonna be a problem for a lot of things.
yeah, and I think a lot of it stems from the entertainment culture. When we use technology to advance our lives and our civilization, like we use new machines to build bridges and roads and buildings so people can work in offices and all these things. It makes society more productive so we can advance faster, right? That's what the whole Industrial Revolution was about. But when
Sure.
we focus taking that stuff and applying it to entertainment, now we just get into this cycle of we have to constantly take our enjoyment to the next level, keep topping enjoyment, which there's nothing wrong with having fun, but it should be sporadic. It should be you don't have a party Monday through Friday, Monday through
No,
Sunday. You have a party on a Friday night or a Saturday night for a reason. You build up
exactly.
to it from the week of working your ass off, and then when you finally have it, it's earned, it's deserved, right? But every
And
day can't be a Saturday night. And if it is, you have a problem in your life, right? That's how we're getting as a culture with entertainment. Everybody's entertaining themselves constantly, every day, all day, constantly trying to entertain themselves. And that's where technology, I think, goes off the rails. If you're using technology to positively benefit your life, you're using social media to build your business or connect with a relative that doesn't live near you. I mean, you could just pick up a phone, but you want to actually see what's going on in their lives and they get to see what's going on in yours because you share your pictures and this and that. That's a different story. If you're
Sure.
using it to constantly doom scroll and just always try and make yourself laugh, it's like you're using that as a crutch to avoid dealing with your actual life.
No, that's exactly what people do too. They hide behind the screen, you know? It's their reality is a 30-second video instead of just dealing with actual reality, you know? Yeah, I try and limit myself to I'll use my phone a lot. I'm not gonna lie, I use my phone a lot. I use it for work. I'm always looking stuff up for work and stuff like that, but that's different. You know, as far as the whole scrolling game goes, I try and limit myself to about maybe a half hour, 45 minutes a day, if even that, of just random scrolling. You know what I mean? Because, you
Hmm.
know, I like to scroll every once in a while. I'll get bored and I'll sit there and I want to kill a little bit of time. So I'll sit there and I'll scroll through my phone, but it is not my identity. Okay. And a lot of people,
Yep.
it is, man. It is, man. And it's
Yeah.
scary. I will be walking down the street and I will see these freaking kids, man, and they are just glued to their phones, scrolling, 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 scrolling. They can walk right into the street and get hit by a bus because they wanted to see that next 30-second video.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so
It's
crazy. And
scary.
it's
I
scary
mean,
too
and I
because
think we're all a
it's in
little guilty of it, you know? I think we are.
yeah.
Everyone is, but you cannot make it your whole identity. Sorry, I didn't mean to overtalk you.
No, no, no. Go ahead. It's just choose like it's hard because it's an endless stream. So it never has to technically stop. It'd be like if you're an alcoholic and you had a tap in your home, but you never had to refill it. The truck never came and put a new bag in there. It was just every time you poured, a beer came out, no matter
Yep,
what. It would be so hard for that person to not be an alcoholic because it's just there all the time, every day. It takes willpower to stop yourself from pulling the tap. Same thing with
exactly.
social media. It's an endless stream.
Exactly.
It never stops. But if you don't do anything, you're free. You're fine. You're good. If you
Exactly.
give into it, that's on you. You got to have willpower.
Well, willpower and another thing that people lack in today's society, especially these younger kids in this generation, is discipline. They don't have discipline. You need to have discipline. You
100%.
need to be able to put yourself in check. You need to say to yourself, you're fucking doing this too much. You need to stop and you need to do something different now. A lot of people don't
Yep.
think and don't have those skills. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a great point, and I think we're going to talk about that in a future episode, especially with how parents are raising their kids today with a
Oh
lack
boy.
of discipline, because everything is about, coddling and making them feel,
Oh God.
safe and good and all these things. And a lot of that stuff is good, but it's also leading to a lot of bad things for this generation of kids that's coming up. And
Totally.
we'll talk about that in a future episode. But I want to
Definitely.
wrap
Definitely.
with, on these three topics, did you have anything in particular that you wanted to add? Anything else that you thought about that you wanted to, make a point about before we wrap up?
No, I think we honestly, man, I think we touched a lot of good points tonight, me and you. The only thing I want to say is
Yeah.
prioritize your time, people. You know, don't sit in front of your phone all the damn time. You know, live life. There's more
Hmm.
to life than that. That's really all I gotta say, man, because I just see it getting so much worse and it just bothers me. But that's it. I think it
Yeah, and
was a
I'm big
good
on that
good
too.
episode.
Yeah, me too. And I'm big on that too. Something I'm going to get into in the future on this with a different segment I'm going to do is book reviews where I literally go through books that I'm reading now or have read in the past and just try and help get the younger generation to go back to reading books because I know a lot of people still read books, but there's so many people that don't. And for a while, they tried to make books like no longer relevant. Like we don't need books anymore. We have um social media and you could just watch videos on that
Yep.
topic faster. There is something that you get from reading an actual book in your hands, not a Kindle, not a digital book, an actual book in your hands. Your brain learns that information differently.
It does.
And I'm going to
It
talk
does.
about this in the future, but it's a segment I want to do where I go back to teaching younger generation how to go back to reading books and some of the books that I'm reading that are really good because I think that there
It's
is
excellent.
we're heading into a bad time where younger people are relying so much on social media for everything. Their
Oh,
news,
it's
their
scary.
knowledge, their everything. And it's really bad because you're believing in so many different people that there's no more credentials. Like I understand it to a degree where you used to have credentials but then people abuse that, and then we just started by default trusting people just because they had a title, and then they ended up being wrong or purposely deceiving just for whatever personal gains they had. And so
Sure.
people broke away from thinking that we don't trust the experts anymore, which is good. We don't want to just blindly trust people. But we've also gotten to a point where now we went the complete opposite way, where people are believing every random person on the internet. And this includes me too. Like, if you don't know me or know my credentials, you shouldn't just blindly believe me. Go do your own
Oh,
research,
100%.
But that goes for everybody. Just because they have a million followers, that doesn't mean you believe them. It just means they're
No.
good at marketing, you know? Maybe take their advice on marketing, but don't believe them about every content they're putting out.
Yeah.
Because now it's like
Take their advice
everybody
on how to
today is a
get
conspiracy
followers.
expert. Yeah, it's nuts. So whatever, we'll get into that stuff in a future episode. But yeah,
Absolutely,
that's
man.
it for this video. I just wanted to, touch on these things because I thought it was something different. We're doing a little bit more of like a technology episode and talking
No, I
about
enjoyed that, man.
just stuff that I think is really going to impact the future of the job force, the job market in this country when robots do, because they will get integrated into our society.
Definitely. Definitely. It was a great
Yeah.
episode too. And I appreciate you having me on
Yeah, yeah.
tonight.
Awesome. All right. Well, that's it for this one. We'll let you go and then I'll sign off and we'll talk in a bit.
All right, my brother. Talk to you soon.
Well, there you have it. That's our take on these topics. Like I said, Anthony has good experience with particularly the 3D concrete printers because he works in the plumbing industry. So he knows about, laying the plumbing in the foundation, every part of the building, putting a new development in. He's one of the first people that works in the new development process. So he is very aware of that, and that's going to, shape and change the industry in new developments, but in concrete in general, because now they have these 3D printers. It's going to change the game to some degree, and there are going to be some modifications on the market. Now, if you're in the, concrete business, you're a mason or something, it doesn't mean go quit your job tomorrow and go find something else to do. It means stay up to date on what these companies are doing with these 3D printers so that you can figure out how to navigate around this industry and the changes that are coming in your industry. And then you can better prepare for a future of how do you work with this technological change versus let it put you out of business. So just something to think about for future reference. And then also if you're in some of these other industries, where robotics are coming in, especially landscapers and cleaning companies. We've seen some changes over the last couple of years with those industries anyway, but this is definitely going to be something that changes the game. You're probably going to have, start having, robotic snow removal companies where it's just a robotic snow plow that comes and, plows a parking lot or something at a store. This is going to be good for businesses that are going to rely on these things but need, you know, um, things are crucial for time and, human error gets in the way. Doesn't mean you're out of a job. It just means maybe figure out a way that you could actually work with the technology. Like if you're a landscaper and you work for a landscaping company or you own a landscaping company, figure out how you guys could get your hands on some of this technology to integrate it in your business. Yeah, you'll probably cut down on some guys, but at the same time, you'll stay in business because you'll have the technology, the machinery that will go out to people's properties and do the landscaping, except now you don't have to have, three, four, five, six guys show up. Maybe you have two just to make sure the robot's doing the job well, and then you do some of the harder work that the robot can't really get to. So find ways to integrate this technology into your future versus competing with it. It would be my advice to you. But that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Like I always say, it helps the channel grow. And check us out on all the platforms that we're on. They're in the logo. We actually have the social media platforms that we're on built into the logo, so it's quick, easy to see. But we're on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, so wherever you listen to the podcast, that's best for you. We're on those platforms. At some point down the road, we'll probably be on a few more platforms, but for now, that's what we're working with. And then, follow us on social media, Instagram, X, Twitter, and TikTok. And that's it. Stay tuned for the next one. But also, don't forget to get your orders in for the holidays because now we're in late November. This is just after Thanksgiving that we're filming this episode. And you really have less than, maybe 2 weeks, the first half of December, to get your orders into the Healthy Body Good Soul storefront, where we have a lot of our apparel, also our Amazon storefront, where we have a lot of discounts going on right now, especially if you're shopping on Black Friday. And I think Cyber Monday might also be coming up too. And then my book, children's book, Little Boy Full of Love, great children's book, available right now on all the major platforms. Um, it's actually on sale right now too. It makes for a great gift for somebody that has a child and you want a good wholesome book to read to them, or for that person. But yeah, get your orders in now, get them in time for the holidays, take advantage of the sales that are going on right now so you can save money. And that's it. Stay tuned for the next one. All right, everybody, I just want to take a moment to promote my children's book. This is Little Boy Full of Love. That's me on the back. And this is a little sneak peek on the inside. It's a great book. It's a children's book. I actually wrote this for my son, and it's available right now on Amazon, Walmart, Barnes & Noble, Indigo, Bookshop.org, and a lot of other online platforms. But more importantly to me, it's actually available in a lot of bookstores throughout the country. You can find out which ones are closest to you on my Instagram page. We highly recommend that you shop local, buy from a local bookstore. So if you are looking to, get a children's book for you or anybody you know, or even with the holidays coming up, it's a great time to, buy a children's book as a gift. Definitely get it from a bookstore that's local to you. But if you absolutely can't get it from one of the bookstores that are currently carrying it right now, and we're in about 15 or 16 different states across the country, so it may actually be in your state, and it could even be local to you. But if you can't get it from the physical bookstore, check out our Amazon storefront. The book's available on there right now. And like I said, with the holidays coming up, you may want to do your Christmas or Hanukkah or holiday shopping early, and you can even order it from our Amazon storefront and ship it directly to whoever you're gifting it to. But it's available on those platforms, Amazon storefront and bookstores and other websites that I mentioned. But I want to take a moment here to look at the storefront just to give you an idea of some other stuff that we have available on there. These are products that we highly recommend. They are things that we use in our daily lives, and it's all organized by category. So it's a lot easier to, shop for the holidays and specifically for things that interest you, particular categories. Available right now, many different items on our storefront. If you can see here, 61 items just in women's apparel, fall decor, because right now we're in fall, 26 items, kitchen items, baking specifically, things for around the house, children's toys, even stuff for parties. If you're trying to save money on a party and throw in your own, occasion, you can even buy some cool gadgets here to help you, put on a better party. Health and wellness items here, even stuff for Christmas. And there's the book right there. So you can get it from the storefront. You can get it from the bookstores, like I mentioned. But it's available on all these different platforms. It's really easy to find and gift to somebody. Also, I want to show you the apparel shop, and these are some clothing items that we actually produced. So if you're looking to get some cool apparel items, shirts, hoodies, long sleeve, short sleeve, leggings, even accessories, cell phone cases, women's makeup bags, fanny packs, coffee mugs, all different types of stuff, even some, art, all different categories here, apparel, homeware, accessories, drinks, even digital items. It's all on this store, healthybodygoodssoul.com. Anything that pertains to you or somebody that you're looking to get a gift for the holidays. A lot of great designs on here, a lot of cool designs that we actually custom created. Stainless steel water bottles, especially now with the fall and winter. A lot of cool hoodies and long sleeve shirts. This is a really cool one, I think, for women. The original Be Your Soul apparel, that one's actually really popular. People tend to like that. This one's one of my favorites. The free shirt. It's the American flag, and it says free, and that says not property of the United States government. That one's pretty cool. Got all different types of tank tops, hoodies, long sleeve, short sleeve, tote bags, coffee mugs, even some items for kids, backpacks. So if you're the type that likes to, plan ahead, I would definitely recommend ordering from the Amazon storefront or the apparel shop within the next couple of weeks to get everything in time for the holidays. Use code SAVE15 on the apparel shop to save 15% off everything on the storefront. So order within the next week or two, and you'll definitely have everything in time for the holidays. Definitely check out all the links to everything, the Amazon storefront, the book, and the apparel shop in my bio on all my platforms: Rumble, YouTube, Instagram, Spotify. But you can also find them in all the show notes for every episode that I post, and get all your orders in time for the holidays. All right, that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. It helps the channel continue to grow. And put in the comments things that you would like me to talk about and make videos on for the future, and I will definitely do my best to do that. Stay tuned for the next one.